Hello, welcome once again to Monday Night Roundup here on Blood Bowl Live. Here to go through this week's Blood Bowl fixtures. We're getting to the end of the group stage now. We've only got 10 days left of fixtures for the group stage. So we're starting to get some really key battles coming in, some key group deciding games to, in all groups really. We've only got a couple of groups that are fully decided, and we've got a lot of people who can still qualify. So we'll get straight into it. Only got 4 games to go through this week. We'll have a little look at who's qualified, who's out, and who's in that fight for the wild card, which is really, really hotting up at the minute. So I've got a dog on my lap, I've got a beer on my desk, and let's go. Let's start. And let's start in Hoffnung, where we haven't been for a few weeks. Not many games have happened, mainly because they got the games in very quickly, so they had a bit of a break. And we had JD's Corner Silent versus Chris's Makuhi. I was doing so well with this one. Makuahuitl. I probably butchered that. But it was a good result for the Amazon teams, this one. It was quite key going into this game. Both teams were on 12 points, so it was very close as to who was going to get out of this particular group in that top spot. This was JD's last game, but Chris does have another one after this, so it was maybe more of an important game for JD than it was for Chris. And looking at how the game sort of started, a journeyman and a star player comes in for the Amazons because JD's got quite a high team value here. Um, and immediately things start to kind of lean the way of the Amazons. A missed next game for a skilled up player there. Another skilled up player getting a casualty though, returning straight back. And a completion and a touchdown, a very quick touchdown for the Amazons on turn 3. Which Chris has done quite well in the games that have gone his way. He has been able to score quite quickly, and he gets that touchdown to take an early lead. Weather changes, we get pouring rain, which probably is going to affect the Amazons more than it's going to affect the Corn team that aren't really going to be playing a passing game. Um, and some injuries start coming in, casualties, fouls, and on turn 10 we get to the beginning of the second half. In 2 turns, those Amazons manage to score again and take a 2-0 lead. Sometimes in JD's games, he's ended up going more for those fouls and those casualties and those deaths and injuries than he has maybe for the touchdowns. So I wonder whether that ended up happening in this one as well. But the weather very quickly turned back, and there's some key players that JD did lose. That Corngore is a very key one for him, skilled up Corngore, which he lost early in that game. And with the weather back to normal, completions come in and a third touchdown. This was a really key result for Chris because he could still finish top of this group. You know, he got that really good victory against Rich earlier on in the season, which means he could still finish top. You know, it's a very, very close game between him and Rich, and I think the finishing standings for this particular group may be close. Having a look at what the group looks like at the minute, Rich is up there on top, having played all his games with 4 wins, 2 losses, and Chris has got 1 game in hand against Nick. He'll be looking to get 5, maybe 6 points from that game and really, really pushing himself to see if he can finish above Rich. He might get you never know, he might get a slightly better draw if he can get above Rich, get a slightly easier opponent in the next round. So, but Chris has confirmed his space in the last 16. So well done to him. Really, really good performances from him to win in some really key games. JD still currently sitting in a wildcard spot. That wildcard fight is going to be very, very tough though. So we'll have a little bit of a look at that later, see whether he can cling on to a spot in the last 16. Moving on. There's just 1 game in that group, and we'll move on to Reina, where we had the Graveyard Brawlers versus the World's Edge Berserkers. And when I was looking through this one, I loved the fact that the Dwarves took a tree, took Deep Root as their star player with all of their inducement money. They had to take a couple of journeymen. Weather was very sunny, so that would have maybe impacted the throwing game, but neither of these teams are particularly passy throwy teams. And the star player comes in very strong straight away. AG busting a Flesh Golem. Of all the stats that Flesh Golem could have had busted, the agility is probably not the worst. But this was the last game for that Graveyard Brawlers team. So he's going to go into the playoffs, assuming he goes through into the playoffs, with a one flesh golem down, so that might be a bit painful. It'll be interesting to see whether he's got the cash to maybe replace it, or whether he tries to cling on. Um, Casualties keep coming in for the Dwarves, but you do get a turn 4 touchdown, taking an early lead for the Brawlers. And then the fouls coming in from the Dwarves pretty quick. And that was sort of it for the first half by the looks of it. Second half, Flesh Golem, the other Flesh Golem, comes in, kills a lineman and takes it for its own as a zombie. God, I love it when that happens. Absolutely love it. And a Wraith gets a niggling injury in that second half as well. So a couple of that's a Wraith and a Flesh Golem possibly out for playoffs. So will that make things a bit more difficult depending on if he gets through? That will be interesting to see. Dwarves managed to get a touchdown back on turn 13. The Dwarf Runner manages to get a touchdown in, and they get a casualty for good luck on turn 14. But the Ghoul Runners have some good pace, they've got some good skills as well, and they can move very quickly, and they do in this case, managing to get the 2-1 win, which is a good result for the Necromantic Horror team. It's very interesting looking at this group. If we look at this group now, the Lizards are sat at the top with a couple of games in. You're thinking they are, well, in fact, we know results. No one in two people in this group can't get 14 points now. So David is safe and qualified at the top. So well done to him. Graveyard Brawlers on 12. I mean, 2 wins, 3 draws, and a loss is not a bad record, but it hasn't got him many points. So there haven't been many high scoring, maybe not many casualties. So he's just sort of got quite low on the points, not many bonus points there. So hopefully 12 will be enough for him. Flumps and World Edge Berserkers will both be looking to see in their last 2 games how many points they can get. One game is where they play each other, and that's going to be really, really key. So it'll be really interesting to see how that ends up, because Tom could still fall short of the top 2 here. So the Goblins and the Dwarves will both be looking for a really strong push in their last couple of games to see if they can upset things here. Moving on, we're flying through. We're not going to be a very long catch-up this week because we've only got 4 games, so it's quite a short one. We move on to the Scale Marys versus the Evolutionaries over in Kthrash. I think it's Kthrash, or is it? Do you say the K, or is it a silent K? Someone tell me if I'm getting it wrong. In what was going into this game, the Evolutionaries needed as many points as possible to put them into the wildcard hunt. The Scale Marys already confirmed as qualified, so all they needed was well, they didn't need anything. I guess it was more a case of if they could win this game and win convincingly, they would maybe move into the top spot in the group and get an easier draw. So an element of that, an element of trying not to get too injured, possibly saving the team for the playoffs. And a lot happened in this game. A lot happened, and a lot happened sort of consistently. The skink Billy gets sent off on turn 2, and we sort of had a bit of a pattern straight away where David started to lose quite a lot of players. David did not have many players on the pitch for a lot of the game. The Elves did very, very well at clearing the field, which for the Lizard team, it's a very good balance of the kind of the strength 4 movement 6 Sauruses, the strength 2 movement 8 Skinks. But as soon as you start to lose, even it doesn't matter the combination, as soon as you start to lose players, I kind of feel like it feels quite heavy. Because if you lose some of that strength, you suddenly feel very vulnerable. If you lose some of that pace, you suddenly feel very slow and not very agile with AG5 on the Sauruses. So as soon as they started to chip away at the players for those Lizards and the Elves outnumbered them, the Elves had a good platform to build on. To get a casualty on turn 3, they get a casualty on turn 4. They badly hurt. A skink gets badly hurt there. The Saurus does get casualty back, taking out one of the blitzers, and the Croxagore does manage to take the lead on turn 7. I imagine David probably will have wanted to stall a bit more because he gave the Elves 2 turns to come back, and the Elves did. A completion from Oz, a skink miss next game along the way, and then a touchdown on turn 8 to level the score at the break. So the Elves did what they can do and come back very quickly. And as you can see, the second half was just all touchdowns. Another 2-turn touchdown for the Elves, bringing it up to 2-1. The Croxagore scoring twice in this game. I mean, my Croxagore barely didn't bonehead in my season, and this guy's scoring too. It's unbelievable. And he scored on I think a bouncing ball catch of a 6 as well. It was incredible. But the Croxagore gets a touchdown to level at 2-2 on turn 14. And again, probably David would have liked to have scored. Like to have stalled and not scored on turn 14 because he gave the Elves 2 turns to get their touchdown, and the Elves got their touchdown in 2 turns, taking the win on turn 16 and a 3-2 win. 3-2 win, 3 scored, 3 casualties as well taken on the way. One of those casualties wasn't logged and was logged afterwards. 5 points for Phil, which did, if we have a look at the group, it doesn't move him any higher in the group, but it puts him on that key 11 points. And Phil's lost 2 games this season, but he's not lost by a lot. It's always been very close games. He's drawn a lot, so his touchdown difference is quite good, and that is currently putting him in a wildcard spot. So it was very, very tight. And he is the second. He's currently would be the worst performing qualifier. He'd have a very difficult draw, and there's a few people gunning for that spot. So we'll see how long he manages to hold on to it. But a really entertaining game. That game we also streamed. If you haven't watched it already, absolutely recommend going onto the YouTube channel, just catching a few clips of it. We had the dice camera going, we had the coaches mic'd up, we had a great view of the pitch. It was our best one yet. So if you haven't caught that, run over to the YouTube channel and have a look, because that it was our best one yet, and it was a really, really great one to watch. There was a lot of action in that game, and the coaches were great. So thank you to them both, and well done to them both. Moving on, we're flying through to Carve in what was another quite key game in this group. Greystone Gladiators, off the back of 2 losses against the Norse team, who are top of the group and qualified, and the Iniday Animals with 2 games left. This was Justin's last game. This is Jane's one of 2 remaining games, looking for as many points as possible to get herself in the hunt for that wildcard spot. And it was a very, very tight game, very, very close. A lot of the time it was just a brawl in the pitch with just clumps of players, no one really managing to make much of a breakthrough. Journeyman comes in for the Elven Union team. Also, a legendary lineman comes in, Bloodwiser Cake, and Pouring Rain, which is going to immediately throw both of them off. Both of these coaches like passing game, and the Pouring Rain would have probably impacted that a bit, but didn't stop them. And on turn 2, the Elves get a completion. That thrower is right up there with the completions, got loads of them this season, in the hunt to get that most completions trophy at the end. Casualty comes in for the Jaguar Warrior blocker, injuring one of the linemen, and then not many recordable events, but it just kind of a brawl, just a mesh. Jane will have been really happy going into the second half, having held Justin off and managed to stop him from scoring, having received. And then in the second half, Jane had a completion in there, got some more casualties, chucked a foul in for good measure, and on turn 15 manages to get a touchdown at the end. But I think in this one it was close for quite a lot of the game, could have gone either way at any point. So a very, very, very tight game here. Very good result for the Iniday Animals. Greystone Gladiators, credit to Justin, to be fair, because he could have played for a draw here, played really defensively, and a draw would have secured him qualification. Results elsewhere have secured his qualification anyway. Justin may have 14 points. The Iniday Animals can now, if we have a look at the group, the Iniday Animals can get to 14 points. A 4-0 win for the Iniday Animals would put them above Greystone Gladiators, but no one else in the league can. I think only one other team can be third with 14 points. So Justin may qualify as a wild card, but he's qualified either way, so well done to him. First season with us here at ADBBL, and he's provided some really entertaining games there. 3 wins, 3 losses, some really good action, and he's going through to playoffs, so congratulations. Well done to Jane as well. 2 losses, 2 wins, a draw, 1 game in hand against Fogforce. She needs to get 4 points from that game. Will get her in the wild card hunt. If she can get all 6 points from that game against Andy, she may even finish second in the group. So a lot to watch in that one and see how it ends up. that's all our games. That's it. We only had 4 games this week. We're running out of games that are needing to be played. Having a look at all of the groups around, we've been through the Hoffnung already. As you can see, Rich qualified at the top. Chris qualified on second. Iceborne Raiders qualified. Greystone Gladiators qualified as well in Carve there. And Iniday Animals in the hunt for the wild card. Tetanus Hotspews comfortably qualified now. Delightful Dirty Golden Browns and the Beautiful Bruisers will both be looking for good results to see if they can push for qualification as well. Cathrash, all games played in that group and all positions decided. Phil currently sitting in a wildcard space. Tipsy Tankards and Vincenburg Eisbaren qualified from Reyes. Simon sadly just missing out on a wildcard spot now on touchdown difference. So very, very close and really well done to him. He's had a great season this year. Heldman, still a lot to decide there. James is qualified in that group because other results cannot go, so that 2 people cannot oust him. 3 people cannot oust him, in fact, and he would need that to not qualify. So James is also through. And Reptile Dysfunction through as well. Still a lot to play for to see who else comes out of that group. Looking at the honours list, Tipsy Tankards still up there with the most valued team. As you can see, that Corn team that we saw earlier, massively high up on that list as well. Looking at some of the things that are kind of relevant to the games that we had this week, we can look at the completions if we go down. Evolutionaries with some more completions this week at the top with 16. Greystone Gladiators 15. Bear Rouse have 1 game left, so they'll see if they can get a few more there, but they won't be going through to playoffs. The Ice Byron on 12 as well, who will be in playoffs. So there's still a lot to play for those honours later on. And as we can see, we do have some of our last 16 confirmed. Only 5 spaces left now. Justin's joined the group having guaranteed at least a wildcard spot. Reptile Dysfunction, Eternally Angry Aardvarkians, and Makua Huluitil. God damn it, I'll get it right again. All guaranteed their qualifications. So we've got a really, really tough mix of group teams there. It's going to be a really, really tough last 16 at the moment, and 5 teams yet to join them. Looking at the wildcard hunt, it is all to play for. So Greystone Gladiators are guaranteed qualification, but could still take a wildcard spot rather than a guaranteed spot. Numpties, Graveyard Brawlers, Delightful Dirty Golden Browns, all currently sitting in second place, but that position for them is not guaranteed. Corn Asylum, Evolutionaries played all their games, currently taking up the wildcard slots, but there is a big pack of teams who will be looking to see if they can get their way there. Inner Day Animals just need 4 points and they will be in the top wildcard spot. Flumps have 2 games to go. Boneyard Blitzers could get there as well. So many teams could get there. Bleakshore Ravens currently no points, 3 games left, could still cause some trouble. So really, really interesting battle here. Keep your eyes out because anyone could still get that wild card. Sadly, we've got 5 teams, as we said, who are out. Simon joins the eliminated group there, having had a really, really solid season. His best season yet, and well done to him. And I'll look forward to seeing him, hopefully, in the King of the Streets tournament, which we will be putting some more information on about this week. To get King of the Streets started, it's the ladder gutter bowl competition that you can bring your league team to or another team to for a bit of fun to keep the games going while we are while you're eliminated and while we play through the playoffs. We'll put some more information out because we've got a few coaches who are keen to get playing and we're happy for the games to get started. So we'll be putting some information out on that as the week goes on. And that's it for this week. What's that, 20 minutes? That's not very long at all. We've just flown through. Thank you anyone for watching. Thank you if you've watched live. Thank you if you're watching on YouTube. Thank you if you're watching on some other future platform that we've done these on. Really appreciate anyone checking in. We'll be looking to hopefully get some games streamed this week. We might not have as many over the next few weeks just because there are less games being played because we're near the tail end of the season. Not many games to go. 10 days of games, and then we have on the Friday the 25th at midday we will be live streaming the Tour Play draw for the last 16. So anyone who has qualified, put that date in your diary. Midday 25th, we will be seeing who is going to be facing who in those final games. Thank you again for watching. We will see you all next time.